Hi, and welcome to a new edition of the Power Talks for Remarkable Females. Welcome to this new edition. And today we are going to talk about stress. That is something that we all know. And I am here with Deepak Saini. He is the founder of Deepak Saini Health. He's a health aging coach and a biohacker. Basically, he has a unique perspective on this topic because after spending many stress years in the corporate world and overcoming an autoimmune condition and a back injury, he is passionate about helping others optimizing their health and well-being. Welcome, Deepak. I'm thrilled to have you here on this show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I've been waiting a long time for this interview or this conversation. So, yeah,
Exactly. I
super,
think we,
it'll be
we talked
super fun
about it
talk.
like a year ago, right?
I think so. Almost a year ago, we first met and had the conversation to do this.
Yeah. And that's something that is basically already, in order to jump right in, we are so busy. We have so many things to do. They are basically, there's so many things that are getting us from what we commit to or what we wish to do or what we are supposed to do. And that causes stress. And those are the stress factors that we know. But today we are going to talk about the hidden stress factors. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about how you got to this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned in my bio some of the health challenges I had. I was also, as a teenager, morbidly obese, 100 pounds heavier than I am now. So
Whoa.
again, long story short, I struggled with as long as I can remember, from a little kid all the way until approximately about 10 years ago, with multitude of health challenges. And is that back injury you mentioned, and trying to overcome that back injury and finding an alternative means, unconventional medicine, to heal my back, and also making lifestyle changes that made my autoimmune condition go into remission, and losing the last 60 of the 100 pounds I lost in just a matter of months. And people started coming to me to for advice, and I'm a CPA by first profession, as you mentioned, in 20 plus years in the corporate world. So I started informally coaching people and realized I really enjoy this. Made it my passion to help others, and got myself educated and a bunch of certifications and trainings and whatnot. And then I learned all these things, and it's the things that I apply for myself, with my family, with my
Mhm.
clients, and now I share with others as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching this live or listening in live, please feel free to use the comment box below. We want to hear what are your stress factors. We want to see your questions. We will deal with your questions. Even if you're watching a replay or listening into a replay, if you have questions or feedback, just write them in the comment box. We will monitor it and we will get back to you later if that is not in real time. So, stress factors, Deepak. There are a lot. I guess we can fill like a couple of hours
Yeah,
mentioning.
we probably could. We'll go a little bit high level here. So I think you did a great job talking about this. The stresses we know, we're so busy, especially this time of year, like holiday season, and we have the New Year's coming up, and all these types of things. These are stresses we know, but there's all these hidden sources of stress that many people don't even recognize, that just add and compound to all the stressors. I like to think of it this way: any single one thing is probably not going to harm us too much or kill us per se, but it's all the little paper cuts that we get
Mhm.
all along the way from all these different sources of stress that compound on each other. So let's dig into some of these. What
Yes,
I
please.
find the number one hidden source of stress that people don't even realize is actually their nutrition, part of what they're eating. And again, there's no one size fits all nutrition plan for everyone. But what I will say is the number one thing that almost everyone, not almost everyone, does eat to some degree is industrial seed oils. So this would be things like canola oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil, et cetera, et cetera. These are highly processed. They're not
Mhm.
natural in our environment. If you think about an avocado, if you cut an avocado and you hold the flesh in your hand, it is oily, right? That is a natural oil.
Mhm.
But all these other things, they're highly processed and with tons of chemicals. They're the number one bad thing that actually causes stress to your body, causes inflammation. And inflammation in your body is a source of stress. That's how your body is dealing with the stress. So number
Mhm.
one, seed oils. Number two, no big surprise, excess sugar. Everyone understands this, right? Oh, if you
Mhm.
have too much sugar, you're going to get all these things, potentially diabetes, etc. Our bodies can actually need sugar to some level, and actually can use sugar to some degree. So I would actually, again, put industrial seed oils ahead of sugar as far as foods that cause us stress or inflammation.
Mhm.
And then it's going to be very person dependent. I'll just use myself as an example. I'm not celiac, but I am sensitive to gluten, and many people are. And gluten is
Hmm.
a protein that we get from many grains. Also, dairy is very
Yeah.
sensitive. It can be a stressor to people. And I just want to make this, a lot of people think they're lactose intolerant, which some people are, very well could be, which is a milk sugar. But actually, many people don't even realize it's not the lactose. It is beta casein, which is a milk protein. And there's two variants. There's an A1 variant and an A2 variant. And
Hmm.
A1 cows today are being bred, or for the last 30, 40 years, have been bred to be A1 dominant because they produce more milk. And of course, that's what the farmer wants, to produce more milk. That's what the company
Hmm.
wants, to produce more milk. That's very difficult for humans to digest. Whereas sheep or goats have naturally have the A2 variant and are much easier to digest. Again, you could be lactose intolerant. It could just be your sensitivity to beta casein. Also, oxalates. Sometimes some people believe like kale, spinach, superfoods, right? This gets put, and that's totally fine. But they're also very high in oxalates. Again, many foods have oxalates, but if you're
Hmm.
eating raw spinach, raw kale, that can be a stressor to your body. And again, I just speak for myself. It is to myself. So how preparing it properly, like sautéing it, steaming it, so the oxalates come out of it, and when the leaves shrink down, you put a whole bag of spinach in the pan, and then when it's all done, you're left with a handful, right? We've all
Yeah.
seen that before, right? So all that liquid and with the water and everything, that the oxalates are removed. So that's one way you can reduce that. But it's a hit. It's not for everyone, but for some people, it is a hidden source of stress.
Hmm.
Nightshades, right? So
Yeah.
eggplants, tomatoes,
Tomatoes.
potatoes,
Yeah. Hmm.
peppers. Again, just use my wife as an example. She is extremely sensitive to red peppers. And then as you get like orange, yellow, like her sensitivity like kind of degrades or gets less as she moves to green peppers. But like red peppers, like, oh, sends her right to the bathroom. So that's a stressor for her. Many people
Hmm.
have these for other nightshades.
Yeah.
Legumes, right? Huge parts of the world, legumes are a staple of the diet, right? But again, genetically, they've been accustomed to this. Again, myself, like I'm half East Indian, you would think legumes would be no problem for me. But apparently, my mom's side, the European side of me, is the dominant in that case. I can't handle legumes. They give me digestive distress. So I have to be very careful with those. So again, not saying these aren't a list of things you can't eat. It's just like to be aware that if you're having symptoms and you can't understand, maybe it's a rash or hives or indigestion or excess gas or something, this is your body's response telling you that this is causing you stress. And quite
Hmm.
often, again, it comes from, and then I'll just wrap it up the nutrition piece with obviously chemicals, artificial colors, sweeteners, etc. We already understand these aren't good for us, and they're in many processed foods. So we just want to be really careful and really understand that nutrition is probably the number one way that we are imposing our own stress on ourselves without even necessarily realizing. Again, hope to educate people.
Also believe that the way that we feel and the way that the energy that we have is also based on what we eat or what we don't eat. I remember that I was in the Wild Fits program a time ago, and basically everything that you said I learned, and some of these things for me were like, whoa. Since then, I don't do dairy anymore. I don't do processed foods anymore, all these things. First of all, sometimes it can be stressful to adapt to
Oh,
have these new
absolutely.
habits, because I remember every time there was like something new in the diet, people started, ooh, because that's also a hidden stress factor to change our routines. It's something that we don't like to do. But I remember that he said that the way you feel and the way that you are productive or the energy that you have is the result of what you have been eating the last 78 hours. So it's basically influencing a lot more than we want to believe. And I think it's absolutely true that our food is a stress factor a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to piggyback on what you said there. Again, something I have my clients do is I'm not huge into tracking all your food
Hmm.
that you eat and everything, but I do ask my clients to just do it for 2 weeks. And the reason being, exactly what you said, is to try and find not necessarily causation, but maybe some correlation. An
Yeah.
example, if every Tuesday morning you feel, whatever the case, you have indigestion, stomach cramps, maybe diarrhea, whatever the case may be, if that's
Hmm.
happening to you every Tuesday morning, we need to look, what are you eating Sunday night? Do you have
Okay.
the same? Most people tend to have a routine. We tend to eat the same 20 or 30 things over and over again. So if you're eating the same basic meal every Sunday night and every Tuesday morning, you have the same symptoms showing up. Maybe there's something there that you need to look into that meal. So I'm glad you brought that up. And then just to wrap up the nutrition piece, of course, there's hydration, our water, like
Yeah.
how clean is our water, how much water are we drinking, and then going hand in hand with that is how much caffeine, which is a diuretic, how much alcohol are we drinking. So again, these
Yeah.
are all stressors, and I'm not saying anyone shouldn't drink alcohol or anything like that, but let's not kid ourselves. There is
Just be
no
aware. Yeah.
there is no health benefit to alcohol. It is a stressor to your body. It's just how much do you
Yeah.
want to handle? So
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Although, I mean, it is mindset. There's people that sometimes ask when I say what I don't do anymore, like I don't do alcohol, I don't do diarrhea, I don't do coffee. And people say, they're like these pleasures in life. I said, but there's so many other pleasures. There's a lot of mindset if you want to change these things. It's basically looking at food and looking at your health in a completely different way. It takes,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
And I
it
want
takes
to
more
wrap.
than just changing your grocery list.
Exactly. And I want to come back to like mindset and relationships towards the end of the talk, but you did bring up an
Hmm.
interesting point. When you're eating, not only what you're eating and how it might react with you, but also the mindset you're in while you're eating. Are you stressed while you're eating? Are you arguing with a parent or a friend or your kids or whatever while you're eating, right? Like we need to, take a moment, take a breath, enjoy our food, whatever it is, even if it's something that's a hidden source of stress for us or not, and just enjoy the meal and take the time for that. I
Hmm.
think that in our society today where we're rushing, and hey, I'm just as guilty sometimes. It's I got half an hour in between appointments or whatever. Like I'm gonna quickly eat something and just whatever. So we can't discount being in a relaxed state while we eat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hidden stress factor number two.
Right.
Bring it.
I like to move on to movement, or some people would say exercise, but I like to think of movement as a bigger piece. There's
Mhm.
just low level movement, walking. There's obviously doing some sort of cardio. There's strength training. There's balance work. There's recovery work. So I like to look at movement in a bigger spectrum.
Mm.
We can't be sedentary, right? We've all heard probably now sitting is the new smoking, and now
Yeah.
standing is just as stressful if you stand too much or if you do it wrong. So we have to get up and move. And again, I'm not telling anything that people probably haven't heard before, but you need to take breaks. Many of
Yeah.
us sit in front of computers where we have a corporate job, or even if or many people now work remotely, or someone like myself, an online entrepreneur, I'm sitting in front of the computer. Like we need to take breaks all the time.
Mhm.
I'm lucky enough to have a dog. He's locked away at the moment right now, so he doesn't disrupt us. But I have to take him out regularly, so that forces
Yeah.
me to take breaks. Take low level movement, get out in sunshine, get some fresh air. We need to even set a timer for ourselves and just get up and move. Just walk around your house, walk around the office, whatever. And if
Yeah.
you're going to stand and have a standing desk, which is fantastic, you can't just stand in one place. I get a block or a ball or something and change the angle of your hip flexors, alternate which foot. So one foot is propped up. So we have to stand on a cushion mat, all these things to so we don't put pressure on our back and our hip flexors.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other thing I want to let people know is, and many people will go to a spin class or yoga or whatever the case may be, CrossFit, whatever, and they'll crush a workout, do 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, whatever, and then they'll sit
Takes
the rest of the
time.
day.
Yes.
You can't do that. Sitting for 3 hours totally negates that exercise you did earlier in the day or that you're going to do
Mhm.
later. You have to have a lot of low level movement. Not saying you got to
Mm.
build up a sweat all day long, but like you have to have a lot of low level movement. And the other
Yeah.
thing I see too, more so with men, not necessarily with women, but women, it happens to women too, is they actually overtrain. They're doing it too hard. And this is a
Yeah.
huge stressor to your body as well. So I just want to you got to do it what's right for you. And again, it depends what your goals are, your stage of life, all these sorts of things, everything, all aspects of health all come together, right? We're not separate little parts of our body. We're like a complete human. They all go together. So we got to figure out what is right for all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love this. I think that what I often hear is I don't have time. I don't have time for the movement. I don't have time for the exercise. But it is so easy to just do, even if it's only something. And if it's like, indeed, like you say, have these little breaks in between and a change of body posture. I do the same for all my conversations, for all my calls, for all my broadcasting. I'm standing. I'm standing because I was sitting and sometimes I felt like, how do they say that in English? A bag of coached potatoes because you don't have you tend to go or you go like staring at your screen and you put all your pressure on your shoulders and your neck. And so now I also have a dog. That's absolutely a very good trigger to go out and to do some movement. But now I also try to every half an hour, if it's possible, if I'm not in calls or things like that, I just go out, change movement, do something. And if I feel like there's a lot of time, I put on an audiobook and I listen to something that I wanted to listen anyway, just also to have this. If you really need this idea of concept of productivity, then you can do it like that. But yeah, get that body moving. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, before we move on, let's add a couple more things to this. So let's say you work in an office, right? Regardless of where you are in the floor plan, there's a fast way to the bathroom and there's a long way to the bathroom, right?
Mm,
Unless you're completely opposite end of you, like it's going to be one, right? So take the long way around. That's probably
yeah.
an extra 20 seconds. You go to the bathroom
Hmm.
4 or 5 times in your 8-hour day. You've just added a little bit of extra movement. Park a little bit further away. You don't have to park right in front of the
Exactly.
grocery store. Park a couple rows back. Nobody hits your car. You get a little extra exercise. Get off one stop. If you take the subway or the bus, get off one stop earlier. Walk the
Yeah.
distance. Whatever. There's little
Take
things
the
we can
stairs and
do.
not the elevator, things like that. We all know that. It's just that we sometimes have to be reminded to do that.
Absolutely. And another thing I like to do, and it doesn't always resonate because again, I do a lot of virtual stuff on Zoom or what have you. But if somebody actually calls me on the phone, I don't just sit. I like walk around, and I don't stand. I just walk around my house or my office, and
Yeah.
I'll just pace and do circles and get some extra steps in while I'm doing that task. Or like, even
Mhm.
if my parents, when I call my parents, I'll like still make it a exercise routine, so to speak, just talk to my parents or what have you. So there's lots of little ways we can build movement into our days for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
The next area I want to talk about is our nervous system, our automatic nervous system. So number
Hmm.
one, breathing properly. Too many people breathe too shallow, and they're
Hmm.
mouth breathers, right? Our
Yeah.
mouth is meant for talking and eating. We're meant to breathe through our nose. So when you're just sitting there working or watching TV, you should have your mouth closed and you should be breathing, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. And if you're
Hmm.
someone who maybe has sleep apnea, or you get a dry mouth or dry throat in the middle of the night, here's a task you can do, and something I have my clients do, again, depending on what their issue is, actually just get a little bit of that tape, the mouth tape, and tape your mouth at night. And people are like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I'm gonna, no, after 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
your body gets used to it. Another thing I
Hmm.
always hear, here's a little tip for everyone. They say, oh, well, I get stuffed up at night or I have a cold. Trust me, our bodies want us to preserve. Our body will not let us die. If you tape your mouth and you have a blocked up nose, guess what? Your body will unclear your nose because it
Hmm.
wants you to be able to breathe. So
Yeah.
again, if you have sleep apnea or some serious medical condition, talk to your provider or what have you. But a very simple thing: we need to breathe properly and just and do any sort of breath work, just some deep
Hmm.
breathing. And so again, a way to de-stress, just a couple
Yeah.
of box breathing or in for 4, out for 6. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, they make the light, and you get caught at the red light, and you're like, ah, look, take a couple deep breaths,
Yeah.
brings your heart rate right down, brings your blood pressure down, brings your cortisol levels down. Super important, for everyone, but many women are in this cortisol spiking cycle. I just
Yeah. Right.
take some deep breaths and calm that right down. And then also along with that is like getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Too many people, especially women, tend to be super mom, which is fantastic. They're having the career, they're maybe taking care of elderly parents, they're taking care of their kids, they're on volunteer boards, they're doing stuff at the school, they're baking cookies, whatever. I'm basically explaining to my wife, I tell you, right? But you have to get enough sleep. You have to
Hmm.
be well rested. Again, lack of sleep, that catches up to you. That is a hidden source of stress when you
Hmm.
don't get enough sleep. And not saying everyone has to get a tracker or like your Apple Watch or a ring or whatever the case may be, but I'm a huge proponent of data. At least understand. Many
Yeah.
people, I'm sure you see them as well, Helena, who are like, oh, I'm in bed for 8 hours. Being in bed for 8 hours and actually sleeping is
Yeah.
two different
And the
things.
quality of your sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, and quality of
And
your sleep, absolutely,
to go back to food, because what you eat also impacts the quality of your sleep. When you eat also impacts the quality of your sleep. And
absolutely.
you would think that people know that by now, but no. Or you would
Well,
think that maybe they know, but then they don't find a way to implement it, to integrate it in their lives. But if you drink coffee all day, the quality of your sleep, even if you're in bed for 8 hours, yeah, it's not good. So
I'll just
there's a
share this
lot of
since,
things.
yeah, since you brought up caffeine. I was having this
Mm,
conversation earlier today, actually, with someone. I am a slow caffeine metabolizer. So I
mm,
have to be done drinking coffee by 10 a.m. and no more than 2 small cups. Otherwise, and this doesn't mean I can fall asleep, no problem. I don't even know that I've been awoken in the middle of the night. But if I look at my data, like from a sleep tracker, my quality is poor. I have multiple times that I've been woken up or sleep disturbances at night.
mm-hmm.
So caffeine is huge. Like I could literally drink a cup of coffee and go right to sleep. So going to sleep is not a problem, but it's the quality of sleep, right? And again,
Exactly.
that's what we want. It's the quality. When we don't get enough REM and deep sleep, where it's a stressor to our body,
Mhm.
and it affects our long-term health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all connected. It's all interwoven. It's all basically part of the larger, how can I say that, health mindset that we adopt, right? And that we create awareness around. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'll just maybe as a segue into our next topic is, again, many people will be like, oh, I'm pretty good at this, or I'm pretty good at this. That's great, but we have to integrate all these things. I
Mhm.
believe there's 7 big areas of health we need to focus on, and they all work together. And if you're lacking in any one of them for too long, then you're not really optimizing your health. Like, it's
Mhm.
great if you exercise, it's great if you have the proper nutrition, and we've already shared earlier that you probably aren't. There are probably things you're eating that are stressors to your, but you got to look at all again, the holistic picture of yourself as your whole
Mhm.
health mindset, to use your words there.
Yeah,
So I want to move
absolutely.
on to what I call environmental. So and these are again all hidden sources of stress to us. So clean air. So that comes in obviously depending where you live and how industrial there is, how much traffic there is. Also, are you someone, how many forest fires, anything that affects the air. Also, are you around people who smoke or vape and these other things? So we want clean air
Yeah.
because any of these particles in our lungs, it's a stressor to our body. Clean
Mhm.
water. Of course, some areas of the world are better than others, and clean water is super important. Also, what kind of household products, cleaners are we using there? Are
Absolutely.
we using the more
Mhm.
natural things? Are we using things that are known endocrine disruptors, which means it affects our hormones and our hormones get out of balance? Women understand this, right? Like, it causes a whole host of problems, weight gain, all the way up to cancer. And there's obviously a broad spectrum there. So, what are we using in our homes? What personal care products? Many companies now, I think many women are becoming aware of aluminum and these type of products, type of ingredients that are in their makeup or their antiperspirant, et cetera. And companies have been wise to this and they've switched out. But your conventional brands, I'm sorry, they've just swapped one thing out for another. And you really have to use sort of
Exactly. Mhm.
a clean product or an alternative product, or make your own potentially if you have the will. Another thing, especially for the working women, and then certainly when I was in the corporate world as well, I would get all my shirts dry cleaned. So again, what kind of, you're having these chemicals against your body. So you can certainly ask for a light. Most dry cleaners, at least here in North America, will do a light treatment, which they're using less. And then also, I
Okay.
wouldn't take your dry cleaning and bring it right into your bedroom where you're sleeping. I would let it air out, maybe in your garage or somewhere far away from your bedroom. So any of those chemicals that are off gassing. Same goes with any new furniture or anything you bring, new carpet, whatever. If you can, it's not always possible. I understand you need those gases to off gas to be released before you bring them into your home or at least into your
Mhm.
bedroom.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I guess that also what works is in a permanent basis to air our houses, have the windows open, have the doors open, depending on where you live. Sometimes it's
Absolutely.
easier than others, but it's very important to have this air circulating, even if you have to, because it's almost impossible not to have chemicals in your house. The paint, the product that your ceiling is dealt with, like you say, the furniture, but even paper, everything that you touch has, well, not everything, but a lot of them have toxins. And I'm a strong believer of airing, of having a lot of ventilation in the house.
Yeah, and I'll
um
just, yeah, Helena, I'm not sure if you or the audience is aware of radon. Radon is an element. It's
it's not.
radioactive. It's in that same family. It's found in the ground. Depending,
Hmm.
it's all over the world. It depends on the geology. This is a bit of a blanket statement, but if you live in a part of the world where there's a lot of natural resources, so whether that be coal, natural gas, oil, etc., you're probably precious metals. You're probably going to have radon as well. Radon seeps up from the ground into our foundations of our homes, and invisible gas, no smell, no taste, anything like that.
Yeah.
The number one source of lung cancer from non-smokers is from radon.
Oh,
So I'll
really?
just share
Hmm.
this story. Probably 10 plus years ago, we had our home tested because, again, in where we live, there's a more propensity to have radon gas. So we had our home tested, and we were right at the upper limit of what we deemed acceptable. So we're like, okay, that's pretty high. We'll make the conscious effort to air out our house. And then I met a fellow who was into remediation and was a bit of an expert on this. And so I shared this experience, and he said, "Oh, like where I live, the acceptable levels are double than what they are in other jurisdictions. So you really have to go to the most stringent environmental regulations is the way you want to
Hmm.
approach it." So I said, oh,
Yeah.
geez, then we're double. So we retested. This is again some years later. We retested, and sure enough, our levels were the exact same as they were before. So we're like, oh, this isn't going to do. So we actually went and we mitigated our home because our kids sleep in the basement, right? So it comes up from the ground, right? It'll seep up. You're going to have in the whole house, but it'll be higher concentration in the basement. And that's where our kids have their bedrooms. So we actually remediated our house where we have a little pump that sucks all the radon up out, that comes up out of the ground and like puts it outside. So again,
Whoa.
that was not inexpensive, but again, we chose that we plan to live here for many more years, and it's a very dangerous and obviously a stressor, a hidden stressor. So anyway, I just want to many people are not aware of that, so I wanted to share that. Also, some of the audience might be wondering, like, oh, Deepak, why are you wearing these yellow colored glasses? So blue light
Exactly.
is a stressor to our bodies, especially our eyes. I'm here, I got my lights and I got my ring light for the whole deal. I need to protect my eyes.
Yeah.
Studies have shown, I've confirmed this with multiple eye doctors, macular degeneration is coming at younger and younger ages. And we're just seeing like skyrocketing of rates of macular degeneration. I don't
Yeah.
want that. So as best I can, I try and wear my blue light blocking glasses. I even have clear ones. You can get clear ones as well, yellow ones.
Yeah.
And then I have tinted. So later at night when the sun is going down, I go to a darker, a red version.
And you wear them all day? Because I have them too, but I only wear them at night, like the last 3 hours of the day, basically.
Yeah,
So
so I tend to wear it. This is what I would recommend. So I have a clear pair here as well. Again, I'm just in front of the computer screen most of the day because that's my business, or on the phone, whatever. So I tend to wear them most of the day. But here's the thing. First thing, and again, it's going to depend time of year, where you live longitudinally in the earth. I live here in Canada, so northern. But I try and get as much natural sunlight in the early morning, so that first couple hours, certainly before noon, of natural sunlight on my face and in my eyes. So
yeah,
I'm
you
not
can do
looking at
eye yoga,
directly at this.
Yeah. Mm.
Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
You can do eye yoga in the sun in the morning. I
Absolutely.
love it.
I do sun gazing, which is
Yeah.
for eye health as well. So again, don't we're not looking directly at the high noon sun. We're just getting some
Yeah.
natural. So not only is that good for your eye health, but also your circadian rhythm. So going back to sleep. You're setting your body up for tonight's sleep by the sunlight exposure you get early in the morning. So and again,
Yeah.
I understand depending where you live, time of year, it's super cold out or it doesn't get light out until really late in the day, but do your best.
Mm.
And then just sticking with the last thing I want to talk about environmental is EMF exposure. So electromagnetic field exposure. So what I'm talking about here
Yeah.
is non-native. So the Earth has a natural electrical field. I'm talking about non-native, the things man has created.
Yeah.
So our cell phones,
Yeah.
our Wi-Fi routers, all these type of things. Now we live in an industrial world. None of us want to go back in time where we don't have these luxuries, but we have to. We can take some steps to try and mitigate the stress that this causes on our cells in our body. So number one, the further away these things are from you, the better it is. If you look at the manufacturing, it says to keep the phone 4 inches away from your ear. Like who actually talks like that? I do. I actually put it
Well,
on
a lot of people
speaker
talk like that on speaker.
yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, on
Right.
speaker. But and then try and keep the Wi-Fi router as far away. I wouldn't don't put this while it's on in your pocket. Many people, men, put it in their front pocket or their shirt pocket. Women
Yeah.
sometimes even put it like tuck it in their bra when they're out and about or whatever. Again, as it's getting the signal, it is in many people. More people are aware of the thermal effects, right? We've all had the phone to our ear and the phone gets hot, our ear starts to get hot. That's one thing. We're talking
Yeah.
about
Because you
like
can feel that's
we can
so,
feel
yeah,
that,
it's
right? I'm talking
easy.
about a cellular level that you're not going to feel where your cells get damaged by all the calcium that gets drawn into the cell from these signals, right? So again,
Mm.
we can't go back in time, but don't put your laptop on your lap. There's all sorts of shielding devices, but the best thing is proximity. Just try and keep it as far away
Yeah.
as possible. Turn
Yeah.
off your Wi-Fi at night when you're sleeping and no one's
Yeah.
using devices
Put your
anyway. All
phone
these
on
sorts of
flight
things.
on at night. Exactly. People sleep like with their phone in their bed, activated constantly. And then there's these things. I don't know if you do this, and some people say it's crap, but it says Shanghai. I have them under all my devices. I wear it all the time. Every device I have has these little black things to absorb radiation. And then there's the grounding stuff. I'm
Yeah,
I'm on
absolutely.
on I'm on top of a grounding mat. I sleep on a grounding sheet. So I wear grounding shoes if I can. And so basically it is also taking away all these electromagnetic stuff of my body,
Absolutely.
actually.
I will share this. So yes, I've got all the little dots you can put on all the monitors and everything like that. I have a based on quantum physics, and I have some, what are they called? Like pyramidal shaped things that I
Yeah.
have that in different on different each floor that's supposed to give a blanket. So I'll be the first. I'm big into quantification. I'm all about blending ancient wisdom with science. I
Mm-hmm.
have right behind me here, I have EMF detectors. I haven't been able to notice any difference. But what I will share is you can get clothing that is silver lined that blocks EMFs.
Yeah.
That I can quantify. If I put my phone inside, like here in Canada, we call them toques. I think Americans call them beanies, like a winter cap, right? A winter cap, right? If I put my phone while it's on inside my cap, it blocks all the EMFs. So I know
Yeah.
that for sure. I can quantify that works.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if these other things work, but it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt. They're
They
inexpensive,
don't
and
harm.
it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt. And certainly the grounding mat that does help. That you can scientifically prove grounding
Yeah.
mat. And Helena, I would imagine your sleep is a lot better too if you're sleeping on a grounding mat as
Exactly.
well. Yeah,
Yes. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And don't
It is.
forget, again, yeah, sorry, I didn't cut you off there.
No,
As,
I want to say it's just a different experience waking up. Yeah. And the energy
yeah,
that you have in the day. Of course, it's not the only thing. It's stacking up all these things you say. It is about awareness and mindfulness about what you do, when you do it, how you do it, and what you stop doing. Even if it was a routine for 30 or 40 years. I mean, there's so much science now that is showing how unhealthy certain things are. And it's about accepting that and changing our lifestyle, because if not, yeah, there's no other way. Yeah,
absolutely. And the last
absolutely.
thing I'll just say about grounding before I move on to our the last kind of big topic I want to talk about is the best way to ground is just get outside in your bare feet.
Yep, exactly.
Swim
Yep,
in the lake, the ocean,
yep,
the river, whatever. Bare feet on the grass. Again, I understand that's sometimes challenging depending where you live, time of year. Like it's not too bad where I'm here right now. It gets to minus 40 Celsius. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not taking my socks and shoes off to walk in the grass at that time. But in the summer, I do as much as I can. And I love
yeah,
being in bodies of water as well. So again,
yeah.
there's lots of ways we can ground.
I
And
would
then the
like to
last.
add one
Oh yeah, absolutely.
environmental stress factor. I'm not sure if maybe you will still mention it. Noise.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you
This
brought
is,
that up. It's something I don't typically talk about, but I'll just share this. And many people are like this. I am very sensitive to
mhm.
noise. I'll call pollution or very high
Yep,
pitched noises. I have to admit, like when going a number of years back, I think we have a different frequency when it's our own children versus other children. But when my nieces and nephews, who I love dearly, but when they were younger, and they would cry or wail or whatever. It was like there was something about it. It literally caused like I would really literally tense up. Again, I'm very sensitive.
yeah,
I can't be in very busy, loud places. Like it's too much
exactly.
stress on my system. I need to go and chill out somewhere. So again,
Yeah,
this is another hidden source of stress as well.
absolutely.
So
And it's
I'm
not
glad you
only
brought
the
that up.
noise. It's not only the noise that we are aware of. There's a lot of noise that we're not aware of. I wrote an article. I wrote 3 articles about noise, and because I am very sensitive on noise, in on my LinkedIn profile in my newsletter, and I just finished and published today a little book, and it's called Embracing the Quiet, and it's talking about everything that is noise pollution. Because I remember that when I was living in Ghent in Belgium, I lived close to the station, and there were major construction and renovation works at the station. And from 6 in the morning, it started boom. And it was not only noise, it was also vibration, because they were, I don't know how you say that in English, but they were basically creating these holes to put very big pillars in the ground. And
Yeah, they're impiling. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And it was only when I had, when I bought this space here in Spain, and I just felt the difference, because I was staying in Spain for 2 weeks and then coming back to Belgium and then go back to Spain. It was only then that I understood how much noise there is in our lives that we are not even aware of, but that is impacting us. It can be traffic, it can be, like you say, children, it can be construction, it can be announcements, it is everything. And it's so important to find quiet space once in a while, to treat yourself on some periods per day or per week or per month, where you can really be still.
Yeah, I'm
And
glad
when
you
people
brought.
come here with me in the south of Spain, I'm in the middle of nowhere on the top of a mountain, and very often, too often to be a coincidence, people say, I can hear myself think. And I said, isn't that amazing? Because there's so much noise around us that sometimes it is difficult to find quiet in your head. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. I'm glad you brought it up. And like, not everyone has the luxury that you have or that I have. I live out in our family. We live out on 2 acres outside of the major cities. We do
Mm,
get noise, of course, but again, for less noise pollution, less light pollution. Right? It's basically
exactly.
dark here. I can see the stars
Yep.
almost every morning on a clear day because there's no street lights on our
Yep.
street. Right? We're just out in
Mm.
the. I have to go out with a flashlight so I can see my dog.
I don't even have streets here. It's only
Yeah,
darkness. Yeah.
exactly. So that's amazing. And the other point, which is a nice bridge to my last topic I want to bring up, is just that quiet, right? So again, I think it's a huge benefit to meditation. So
Mm,
again, we're talking about the hidden sources of stress. Obviously, meditation is not a hidden source of stress. It's a way to cope with the hidden source of stress. So I'm a huge proponent of meditation. Just again,
yeah.
quiet your mind, get used to that breath work, just breathing properly. We mentioned earlier. So huge proponent of that, which takes us into what I call mindset. And I think meditation is part of that. But the real point I want to bring up is addressing the root cause of many of our stressors. So getting
Hmm.
over negative emotions, limiting beliefs, and even traumas, right? It can be anything from people who maybe procrastinate or have imposter syndrome or negative habits, or at least their perceived negative habits. We can't be the person we want to be, the parent we want to be, the friend we want to be, the spouse we want to be, etc. When we have all these underlying things that we may or may not consciously be aware of. Of course, if something tragic happened to you, you may be consciously aware of this past trauma, but there's many times we are not, right? Our unconscious mind has suppressed them, but it's still a stressor to our system. So I'm a huge
Hmm.
proponent of doing, what I call inner game work, or working with the unconscious mind using whatever modality to relieve those negative emotions and limiting beliefs. Now, does that mean you're not going to have these emotions again? No, of course not. But it's how you react go forward, both how your body reacts from a health point of view, but also how you're going to react in your relationships, both your professional and your personal relationships. When somebody triggers you, per se, right? How often I see people who sound maybe, we're in the holiday season. So, oh, you're not eating that anymore. You're not eating gluten. You're not eating dairy. And your mom or your aunt or somebody makes a comment. In the past, you might have flipped out or got stress response or whatever. And once you do some of that inner game work and got rid of those traumas or those limiting belief or those negative emotions, you're like, yeah, I'm just trying something new. And you can just roll with the punches type of thing. So I think that can't be discounted, both mental and physical effect that stresses that our unconscious mind has suppressed to protect us can have. And again, huge proponent of doing that kind of inner game work.
Mm. Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
never seen someone who hasn't, either myself or my colleagues, who doesn't, when they address not only the inner game work but any of these things we've talked about throughout our discussion today, these hidden sources of stress, it doesn't see an impact in their business or their professional life. They make better, faster decisions. Again, all these little paper cuts added up, just compound on each other over time, and it just slows us down and
Hmm.
weakens us slowly and slowly. And we can get rid of one or two at a time. And again, it's a process. It can be it's a pro. You can't do 20 things at one time. We improve.
Absolutely. It's about doing the work. It's about understanding that work is not linear, that progress is not linear. It's about also understand that we can be kind and mild to ourselves. It's not everything is we have to do this now. It is about understanding that who we want to become implies different choices and different decisions. And what works for me is I have a very clear view on who I want to become, like this future version of me. Although the older you get, the less future you have, but still you have this version where you say, okay, this is how I want to be. And so every time for example, my guilty pleasure is chocolates. I mean, I can do dairy, I can do alcohol, I can do coffee, I can do everything, but chocolate for me is a difficult one. So when I open the fridge and I see this piece of chocolate, crying for me to pay attention to it, I just think, okay, what would my better version do? What would my future version do right now? What decision would she make? And I say, she wouldn't eat it. And I have to say, sometimes she does eat it anyway, but it is an awareness. Okay, who is it that I want to be? And what is very important also is we are role models. So our children are looking at us, or our families, or communities, or teams, whether we want it or not, we are giving examples. And so if we are aware of what is a healthy way of living without putting that into the extremes, but what is a healthy way of living, because we are aware of all these hidden stress factors, then we also not only we don't only help ourselves but also our children and our communities and other people, because it has this ripple effect, right? And so that's
Absolutely.
why
I
why
love
I
all
also
that you
think
said
it's
there.
important. It's not only for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we need to be the leaders of our number one, the leaders of ourselves, of our own
Hmm.
bodies and our own mind. Then it goes to our immediate family and then our extended family and our communities and et cetera, and be that shining example. And again, I can't
Exactly.
tell you how many people within my own family, even my own kids, who like I give some suggestions. We do the shopping together. We eat a certain way, but there's things my daughters have picked up, my older one especially. That's just it's just but leading by example. I never told her to like substitute out the this and use this instead. That's just what I do. So she's just picking up online. She's made her own decision. She's old
Hmm.
enough now. Or someone else in my extended family who's all of a sudden you don't see them for a number of months, like, oh, have you lost some weight? Oh yeah, I stopped doing this. They'll never tell you like you're awesome, Deepak. Like I'm following what you're doing. They just quietly do it on their own, and they see the benefits and they keep doing it. Right. So again, be the shining light in your own community, and people will notice. And don't be all. I've made this mistake too. Don't be all up in people's faces like, oh, I got rid of dairy and I did this or what. Just lead by example quietly.
Yeah.
People will be curious on their own, or they'll follow you,
Yeah.
what have you, and they'll start to improve themselves. And again, for those people, like we went over a lot of things today, seems like maybe a daunting list. Don't try them all at one time. Try one or two things.
Yeah.
Like if you're not
Exactly.
meditating or breathing properly, like start with that. If you're like, oh, dairy, okay, you know what? Don't get rid of dairy completely. Maybe just switch to goat cheese or goat's milk or something like
Exactly.
as an intermediary step. Like figure it out along the way, right?
Mm. Yeah. So, Deepak, as a coach, let's say that people who are watching this, listening, and say, yeah, I know, I should, but where do I start? So, because you are supporting people in that process, where can they start? What can be like a good next step to do? I know the holidays are very close, so it might be a little bit difficult for some things, but what would be like a few things they could try?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a couple of free gifts for the listeners. We'll drop the link in a moment here, but I'll say I'll talk about one of them very briefly here. I have a guide to build 7 new healthy habits,
Mm.
and so it's a little description of why it's important, et cetera. And then it's actually 30 days, so you can track this new healthy habit. So here again, as I said, don't try all 7 at once. This is disaster. Like you're gonna fail. Pick one, maybe two, do it for 30 days. And if it resonates with you, great. You've built a new
Mhm.
habit. If it doesn't, that's fine too. Go back, try another one. And after
Yeah.
some period of time, you'll have tried all 7, and maybe a few of them stick, maybe all of them stick. And then you've built some new habits over the course of 6 months or 9 months or something like that.
Mhm.
Just start small with one or two things. Again, it might just be as simple as going from 2 glasses of wine a night to one, or trying to purposely eat more protein, or add another serving of vegetable, like whatever it is. Just make it
Mm.
something you're already doing a little bit extra or a little bit
Yeah.
take away, and don't go overboard, because that's very challenging, especially if you're going it on your own. If you're working with a professional like myself, again, I wouldn't start anyone doing too much at once, but it's when you have some accountability, it's a little bit easier. But if you're doing it on your own, which is totally awesome, just start
Mm.
small.
Beautiful. You say that you have some other resources that you could offer for
Yeah,
people that want to
we'll
start?
have all the links. I'm going to drop it in the chat here
Yeah.
for well. So the first one I'm going to
Wonderful. For
drop.
those who are here now,
First one
absolutely.
I'm
And
going
for
to drop
everybody
here.
here or everybody jumping in later, there will be a replay of this conversation with Deepak on the LinkedIn event page. That will be there like in as soon as we end this conversation. And then as of tomorrow, there will be a replay on YouTube. There's a channel that is dedicated to the Power Talks for Remarkable Females. And so you're very welcome to watch this episode again.
Yeah, so I dropped two there. The first one is that guide, that free guide I mentioned. You got 7 healthy habits you can start to build. And the second link I dropped in is what I call debunking personal development myths. I'm a huge believer that any work we do on ourselves is fantastic, and all
Mm.
modalities work. I personally believe that some work a little bit better. It goes back to that mindset piece, getting over the negative emotions, the traumas, limiting beliefs that actually propel us forward and actually help us build healthier habits easier as well. So I'll drop that link in there as well. Give it a read, and hopefully people can get something from that.
Deepak, did you drop it in the comment box of the StreamYard?
I did, yes.
Because it doesn't show here. Does it show for at your side?
You know what I did? I put it in our private chat, not in the and not for everyone. So
Oh,
let me drop it again. Sorry everyone, that was a
yes, that's
mistake on
okay.
my
No
part there.
worries. Because, yeah, I didn't see it coming up. And then I will also put it for you that watch the replay. I will put it in the comment box below the video or
For
the
some
audio
reason,
stream.
it is not letting me drop anything in. I don't know why that is.
Let me see if I can do it. If not, let me see. You should be
Well,
able, but
either way, we'll get it to you folks. It'll be
yeah,
somewhere for you.
I
There
think
you
it's,
go. There
yeah,
you go.
I just copy and paste this so everybody can have access to these ones.
Perfect. Appreciate that,
There you go.
Helena.
So they're on the stream, but they will be on the replay pages also. A final anecdote or story or tip that you want to give? We're almost on top of the hour. So
Yeah,
anything
absolutely.
else that you would like to add?
Yeah, again, not to go back way back to the beginning of my story and what got me to this, but what I will say very briefly is I had to be broken down before I made that change for myself. And I have a very strong why of being able to be the man I can be, the husband I can be, the father I can be. What I would say to anyone is don't get to the point where you're broken down before you make the change. And again, you don't have to do everything that I do or that Helena does. Start with one thing, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's walking a bit more. Maybe it's drinking some more water. Maybe it's cutting alcohol a bit. Maybe it's cutting the carbs down, cutting the gluten, whatever it is. Just start with one thing that's going to move you positively in the right direction, and it'll be a snowball effect. And then you start the next thing, and your life will look completely different a year from now if you just start today. Just it would sadden me and Helena as well if you didn't make that change and you waited till you got really sick or whatever the case may be. Don't have what happened to me to have the wake up call. Just start with
Mhm.
something simple now, and I'd love that's what I'd be my takeaway for the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Deepak, and also for your tips and the links. That's very generous where people can find more. I also believe that if you cannot do it alone, just look for help. There's so many people. There's Deepak. There's people like Deepak. If you feel he's too far away, depending on where you're listening in from, there's so many people that can support you, that can sponsor you. And what really worked for me is to have a vision. Like you say, you have this why. The stronger your why is, the stronger your vision is, who you want to be and why you want to be that person, the easier it is also to make the decisions because you can align everything to that why and to that vision. Don't underestimate the power of a vision. I use it for every transformation. And what Deepak is bringing here is also a transformation. It's not something that is really easy because if not, everybody would just do it overnight. So I believe that mindset and vision are also very important elements in the whole process of transformation. And as I said, be supported there and look for external help because sometimes it's really difficult to find the help with your family and friends because they will say, oh, drink that extra glass. It's the holidays, it's a party, it's thing for the, and you will not be stimulated too much by a lot of people to go for the healthy way because when you do that, you are confronting other people with their behavior and with their choices, and they will push back. And this is what I have experienced and what I see also, not only in transformation in health and in these hidden stress factors, but in general. So look for support that is actually supporting you, that has your back. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we obviously don't have time to get into now. We're wrapping up, but here there are certain tips and tricks that one can do around the holidays as well, so you can still conform to the norms of your family or society while still trying to make those healthy habits. Maybe that's a conversation for another time, but
You have them somewhere? You have them on your website or
no, it's. Do we have 1 minute? Can I just go really,
give
really?
us one. Come.
Okay, so this is what I was. If you're going to a big dinner, right, and maybe it's a potluck or maybe it's not, there's gonna be foods that are not part of your new way of eating, new plan. Well, this is what I would do. Certainly, as I would do again, men or women doesn't matter. I would encourage for women actually is do strength training before you go. So you really deplete your muscles of muscle glycogen. So the blood sugar in your muscles, so to speak, the glucose in your muscles. And then I would be in a fasted state as well, so that when you go there, that first little bit of food you have is all going back into refilling the muscles from the exercise you did. Obviously, bring something that you know you can eat, some healthy dish that you bring, that at least there's one thing there. And then, especially at this time of year, depending where you live, it tends to be a little bit cooler. Is, make sure you stay a little bit cold, because when you're a little bit chilly, not like freezing, not teeth chattering, but when you're a little bit chilly, you're actually in a better fat burning mode. So maybe wear a lighter jacket, maybe go for a walk outside right after the meal. Okay, I'll just be right back. Go around the block, be a little bit chilly, come back in front of the fireplace. Just those little things just help you utilize the glucose and whatever you might be eating in that special holiday meal. So really quick tip there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So time to end this session. I think it came at a very good moment right before the holidays, because this is a period where it is a little bit more stressful. So it's good to be a little bit more mindful about these things. Deepak, thank you so much for your
Helena,
wisdom, for
thank
your
you for having me.
learnings, for your generosity. And for everybody listening in, watching this or the replay, just as Deepak said, pick one, start with one or with two, and just work your way through integrating things in your daily routines, in your daily life, and have a very healthy and happy life and holidays, because they're coming.
And
Wonderful. Thank you
remember,
so much, Deepak.
2025 can be your best year of health yet.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you so much. See you soon. Take care. Bye bye.